is the fact that this is one of the cheapest campaign objectives you can actually run. So you can get a lot of really good results pretty quickly and pretty inexpensively as well. The second big reason I like this objective is because Facebook does rank ad accounts based on a number of different factors, but one of those things is the types of ads that your account is running. And if you're only running conversion campaigns, you're actually doing yourself a massive disservice and you'll likely pay more because you're essentially telling Facebook, hey, my goal on your platform is just to get leads and sales from your users. But if you incorporate some engagement campaigns into this, it's promoting a really good user experience on their platform because you're essentially saying to Facebook, hey, I want to educate and engage and entertain your users before asking for anything in return. So let's take a look at how you can use some tips and tricks at this initial stage to develop long-lasting relationships with your audience and improve your conversion rates in later stages. So let's go over these 4 steps and then we'll actually jump into our Facebook page and I'll show you exactly how I would go about doing this. So first, you would identify an existing well-performing post that aligns with your eventual paid offer and shows your audience who you are. So ideally, you would have that organic traffic, even if it's not a huge amount of engagement yet, but you can go into your analytics and into your insights and select a really great post that really resonated with your existing organic audience. And then in step 2, we're going to be leveraging this by turning this post into an ad for your existing audience with the objective of getting engagement, because as we know, your posts, even if they're organic, they're only going to reach sort of 2 to 5% of your followers. So we want to make sure that we're first getting all of our people to see it, especially if you've got quite a small audience, it might be a couple hundred people. So you want to make sure that all of them have seen this amazing post and have had a chance to interact with it before we then go to step 3 to shift this exact post over to cold audiences once your frequency is over about 4, which means that your existing audience has seen it quite a few times. They've had a chance to engage with it and they've probably done everything they're going to do with it. It's now time for you to actually show it to your potential target market and potential audiences that haven't engaged with you yet. And then step 4 is going to be to leverage this new activity on social media into building up your email list. So you want to make sure that as you're doing this, obviously people are going to interact with the post itself, but inevitably they're also going to actually check out your profile and check out what else you have to offer. And maybe if you're doing this on Instagram, for example, they're going to go to the links in your bio, and you want to make sure all of that is ready for you to actually start getting people's email addresses so you can slowly start to move people into the commit phase, even though that's not the objective here. The objective at this stage is just to engage with them, and we're going to be retargeting these people a little bit later on. But if you can get people's email addresses in the process, then why not, right? The first step is going to be for you to head over to your Facebook page and then head over to the Insights tab so that you can take a look at some of your past posts, preferably videos that have done really well with your audience that you might be able to use for this connect phase. So just checking over the last couple of months and taking a look at some of my stats here, you want to keep a look out for the organic reach for particular posts and the engagement. So I would say that this post has done really, really well, probably the best out of the ones that I've posted over the past couple months. But I know for a fact that this post in particular isn't a video, so it's not ideal, but also it was more of like a fun update for my audience rather than an educational post that I would be willing to utilize for this connect phase, specifically to cold audiences. So this content is more relevant to my existing audience, but it wouldn't probably repurpose well for cold audiences, which is ultimately what we want to do with this phase. So I wouldn't necessarily use that one, but I know that this one is also performing really well with my existing audience. It's had quite a bit of engagement, good organic reach, and it is a video that is educational and that would potentially align with my ultimate paid offer, which in this case could be training for people who want to do better with their social media marketing efforts. So I would go ahead and just make sure that the post is ready to be turned into an ad, because once it's turned into an ad, you can't mess with it anymore. You can't edit anything. So you want to make sure that you're reading through it and you're making sure that this text makes sense, that it will make sense to when you boost it or promote it to your existing audience, but also once it actually goes out to people who have never heard of you, everything looks good and any links or anything like that are in there and everything makes sense. It all looks good. In terms of the video thumbnail, I know that this could be quite weird to a lot of you because I know it doesn't look super polished, but actually they've done tests on this and it turns out that thumbnails of people who look like they're mid-speech actually do really well for conversion rates in terms of click-through rates. So people are more likely to click on it because it looks a little bit awkward. So even though it's maybe not the prettiest thing ever to be scrolling across your feed, people who don't have autoplay turned on for videos on their Facebook account, it means that they're more likely to click on it because it looks a little bit awkward. So that works really well for me. And I would be happy to keep that in terms of an ad. And I would just either save that or just exit out of that because I haven't made any changes. So that's the video that I want to use for this Connect stage. And then I would go ahead and jump on over to my Facebook Ads Manager so we can get started with actually promoting this out. So I would just jump on over to create. And in this case, we want to optimize this for engagement first. And we want post engagements, and we want to make sure that we're using whatever our naming conventions are with how we want to name our campaign. So you could name this based on the Connect stage, but the Connect stage really just represents the top of the funnel stage, and that's my personal naming conventions within my Facebook Ads Manager. So that's where I would say tofu, which is top of funnel, and let's say GIF would be the name of my campaign here, and my goal is paper engagement here. So I would just go ahead and click on continue. And I'm not split testing here, and I'm not using campaign budget optimization at this stage. In terms of my ad set, I don't necessarily need to say that it's top of funnel at the ad set level, but I would want to put in the name of my campaign and maybe the objective and who I'm advertising to and where. So I would say Facebook, existing audience. If you are going to be using this strategy with Instagram as well, then I would just make sure that I'm splitting up my Facebook and Instagram strategies into two different ad sets. So that's why I like putting the Facebook in here, or I would put an IG for Instagram. But really, the key that we're looking for is here, this existing audience. So we know we're actually really just promoting an existing post that is all about creating your own gifts to an existing audience. So daily budget, really you could put, whatever you want into this, but $5 is a really good amount depending on what your audience size is. So as I'm going through and making some variations here, you'll start to see this potential reach drop based on what I'm putting in here. I would just be creating a really simple, quick audience. And I would actually not want to limit this based on location because I'm just going to be using my existing audience. So if you put in the key term worldwide, it'll just target everyone in the world who has a Facebook account, and you want to make sure you're selecting worldwide region, not place, because it is the name of a place for some reason. But as a region, it'll basically just select everyone, which is a heck of a lot of people. Age groups as well. I wouldn't restrict it, wouldn't really restrict based on anything, maybe languages. I would just make sure that anyone who is using their Facebook in English, but really the main thing to note at this point is the connections tab. So I want to make sure that I'm really only targeting people who are already fans of my page. So they already know who I am, they follow me on Facebook, and they're going to be more likely to be interacting with this post in that case. And we're really only going to be using one placement for this because we want to get the engagements on the Facebook newsfeed and nowhere else. So I'm going to go ahead and remove every other placement and just make sure it's not on Facebook video feeds or marketplace. Really, all we're looking to target is Facebook news feeds. And currently, this is my estimated reach and post engagement, which is cool. And I'm happy with that. And I don't really want to go through any cost control or anything like that. And I would just copy over whatever I've done at my ad set level here. because this is going to be a really simple single ad set, so it doesn't really matter too much. I only need to hook up my Facebook page because it's not going to have an Instagram placement. I'm going to be using an existing post, and I'm going to go ahead and select the post here. And I'm making sure that I'm on Facebook, not on Instagram as well here. Cool. Okay, so now I don't want to add a call to action here because I don't really want to be asking for anything in return at this stage. So tracking is a little bit irrelevant at this stage because people aren't going to be prompted to go to my website, but it's just a good habit to keep that turned on. There's no downside to it. And really, that's it. Okay, so we would go ahead and just publish this. And all that's going to do is it's going to push this post out to everyone who is a fan of me on Facebook already, who hasn't seen the post yet, or maybe they have, but maybe they haven't interacted with it. It's going to be likely pushing it out more to people who are most likely to engage with stuff. So it doesn't mean it's going to reach everyone in my Facebook ad audience. It's really only going to show it to people who are most likely to give me the results I want, in this case are likes, comments, shares, that sort of stuff, to really build up momentum on this post, so that in the next stage, when I go through to creating an additional campaign for my cold audiences to see this exact post, it's going to have that really good engagement on it already. So people are going to be like, oh my God, this girl has so much, so many likes, comments, and shares on this post. I need to know what it's about. And they're going to watch it, which is going to be great because it's going to have that connection and it's going to have that social proof on it already from my existing audience. So this is really cheap because it's only $5 a day, but really I would probably only have to run this for maybe 2 or 3 days max for my audience of 6,000 people. So if your audience is smaller, you might only really have to run it for 1 day before your frequency goes up. So you want to make sure you're keeping an eye on your frequency column here. Once this reaches about 4, you want to make sure you're turning this off from your existing audience and you're moving to the next stage where you're pushing this out to a cold audience who's never heard of you and you're trying to connect with them instead. Because really, after your existing audience has seen this 4 times, chances are they've already taken all the actions they're going to take and they're not going to take any further actions. So you don't want to be wasting money in this case. Now, if you do want to go through and create a similar strategy for Instagram, all you can do is really go through the exact same steps, but make sure you're selecting Instagram newsfeed as your placement. And in that case, you would really only be able to do this with any Instagram videos that are shorter than 120 seconds. So if you have any IGTVs or anything like that, it won't allow you to use it for this strategy. But I would say that this particular stage works a lot better with Facebook rather than Instagram, because social proof is not as powerful on Instagram because people can't see it as prominently as they do on Facebook. All right, guys, so that is step 1 of this connect stage, where we're really just warming up our existing audience, really getting them to engage with this post before we then move into the second part of this process, where we actually go and push this post out to awesome new cold audiences that have never heard of us, but we just want to educate them, entertain them, and show them what we've got. And in that case, we'll actually be optimizing for video views, and more on that in the next lesson. So I'll see you there.